Yesterday, President Joe Biden met virtually with farmers and ranchers to discuss rising meat and poultry prices and ways to boost meaningful competition. This as pumped up prices are being seen in nearly every grocery category in stores across the country. And joining us now to discuss this and more is Joel Griffith, research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joel, welcome back. Always great to see you. We got a lot to get to here, but first, I want to get your take on the president's meeting yesterday and his plan to increase competition and tackle those meat prices.
American consumers are realizing that food prices continue to soar. Unfortunately, the Biden administration, despite all the talk, has actually compounded the problem, not just through all the COVID restrictions that they've recommended, but also through a number of environmental regulations that are making it more difficult for farmers to get affordable fertilizer, for instance. This is compounding the problem. Really, everything that the administration has been doing as of late, related to agriculture, related to energy, related to labor itself, is causing prices to rise and is exacerbating the shortage of goods and of services that we're experiencing.
And Joel, do you think that plan, though, do you think it will help to lower costs for consumers at some point? In your opinion, what do you think really needs to be done, not just in the meat and poultry industries, but, across the board to level off these rising prices?
Well, what we need to have seen done is a complete elimination of the remaining COVID restrictions that are in place. And leading the pack right now on those restrictions, of course, is the vaccine mandate that the administration continues to push forward. A lot of private businesses, a number of states are putting in place their own requirements. And that is actually compounding the labor shortage as it forces people out. There are some surveys that suggest that upwards of 20% of truckers, for instance, if these requirements are put in place, that they might choose to no longer be in their industry. This is a very real concern. If you look at the rising prices overall, and we're seeing prices rise at the fastest pace in about 40 years, that has been largely because of government policies, both related to shutting down supply and then also in spending and printing trillions of dollars that is driving up demand at the very same time that we are suppressing supply. This is largely a government-caused problem that politicians continue to blame on COVID. It's been government-caused, and what the administration has been pushing for in terms of more spending would make the problem worse for years to come.
Joel, I want to talk about labor now. The Labor Department released some new numbers today showing 4.5 million Americans left their jobs in November. That is a record right there. What do you think is spurring this so-called Great Resignation, and what type of impact is it having on the labor market overall?
Well, right now we see a labor shortage. We see that the number of job openings far exceeds the number of people that are unemployed. And you see that because of a lot of the artificial demand from government spending, government borrowing, that's increasing demand on goods and services. And so this is making it very difficult for businesses to find enough workers. So that makes it possible for people that are in the workforce. It does make it possible for people to leave their jobs and find better employment. We saw an all-time high number of people leave in a given month, 4.5 million people, 1 out of every 30 people in the workforce left their jobs last month to find something different. Now, if that was a situation caused by a naturally booming economy, by productivity soaring and salaries increasing, that would be positive. But what we see right now is we see the government has caused a labor shortage through a vast expansion of the welfare state, through very generous unemployment benefits, and through all of the spending. This is called an artificial labor shortage. And this is dangerous, not just because it hurts businesses, but actually it's driving up the cost of goods and services. And despite the fact the labor market is so hot, despite the fact that wages are increasing, we have seen the typical person see their real take-home pay decrease over the past year because of this.
Yeah, Joe, I want to talk about COVID now, kind of focusing on that. We're seeing a surge, as you know, in COVID cases, and a number of cities are putting restrictions in place requiring proof of vaccination to go to restaurants, sporting events, and other entertainment venues. I'm curious, how do you think these restrictions are going to impact these local businesses?
Well, in a number of these cities, such as New York, Chicago, LA, these restrictions requiring people to have a vaccine, a proof of vaccine to enter a business, this is discriminating against large parts of the population. People that have chosen either because of health reasons or other reasons not to take the vaccine. This means that they are not able to participate in the economy. I think that is that is the biggest problem with this is discriminating against individuals that are simply exercising their own individual liberties to choose what kind of medication to take. But it has an economic impact as well. This is hurting these businesses. It means that they are losing out on upwards in some neighborhoods of 25% of the business that they would otherwise have. And you're going to continue to see a very real difference in places like Miami and Atlanta that are completely open right now with really no restrictions left in place versus places like New York that are imposing such severe restrictions on personal liberty and on the business community.
Joe, 20 seconds left, but I really want to get to this last question, sort of on a global scale right here. Evergrande, as you know, one of China's biggest real estate development companies, which is more than $300 billion in debt, has now been ordered to demolish a 39-building resort complex. I'm curious, what more do you know about this, if anything? And also, what does this signal for the global real estate market?
Well, China has had a glut of real estate constructed over the past several decades. In fact, the number of vacant houses in China exceeds the total number of housing in Japan. It's truly astounding. And I think this underscores the problem that you see with centrally planned economies. China, of course, is a communist country that has a version of capitalism that is under state control. And this underscores the danger that you see when you have governments involved to such an extent with the economy. You end up with booms, and then you end up with extreme busts that we're seeing across the business sector in China.
All right, Joe, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much. Always appreciate your time and analysis.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.